Today, we are at the Carbon County Museum here in Rawlins, Wyoming, and we have a special guest. Just chilling in the shade, eating something. I see you.
All right, I'm Tom Mensick. I'm the director of the Carbon County Museum here in Rawlins, Wyoming.
You heard the man, so today Tom is going to take us on a tour of the Carbon County Museum, and there's some historical stuff here. One thing in particular I came here for.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going to show us some other stuff too.
Most people come for what we're going to see next.
Yes. So you make sure you watch.
In Rawlins specifically, we are known for probably one of the most infamous kind of Wild West stories that you can think of. It kind of spans about 80 years of history, which is pretty cool. So there's this gentleman named George Parrot, aka Big Nose George. You can see by his nose there.
It's a pretty good sized schnoz.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Kind of a road agent, petty criminal, had a small gang, would rob stagecoaches here and there, a store here and there. Didn't really have the same cachet as Butch Cassidy or Wyatt Earp or any of those guys, but he was well known in Carbon County. So in 1878, him and his gang ambushed a Union Pacific detective named Tip Vincent and a Carbon County Sheriff's deputy named Robert Widowfield, and they were killed and left on the side of Elk Mountain, near Elk Mountain, Wyoming. So they all escaped, and there was a huge uproar because both Widowfield and Vincent were extremely popular. One of his compatriots, named Dutch Charlie was his nickname, was actually arrested in Green River, Wyoming several months later, and he was brought back to Carbon, Wyoming, which is a ghost town outside of Medicine Bow and Hannah, just north of Rawlins. He was actually pulled from the train and lynched in Carbon over a light post, which would be a fun foreshadowing to what would happen with George.
That's the kind of thing they did back in those days. If you did something egregious, they're not going to wait for the law or court or juries or silly things like that.
Frontier justice. They just took it into their own hands. And so the main other known perpetrator was George, and he was captured in Montana in 1880. And so they brought him back to Rawlins. He was actually brought back through Carbon, the same place where Dutch Charlie was lynched, and the townspeople demanded that they kill George in Carbon as well. And he pleaded with them and said, no, I'll go back to Rawlins and I'll plead guilty and all that stuff. And so they spared his life in Carbon. So he was brought to Rawlins, was put on trial, was found guilty of the murder, and while he was in the Rawlins jail, he decided to try to escape. And so he attacked the sheriff and knocked him out and was running away. The sheriff's wife got the sheriff's gun and knocked Big Nose George, knocked him down and kind of roughed him up a little bit, forced him back into his cell at gunpoint. The townspeople of Rawlins, they're like, we've had enough of George. He was already sentenced to death. Why don't we just give him his short drop and sudden stop?
I've heard that one before. I like it. Yeah.
Give him his short drop and sudden stop when we want to. So March 22nd, they took him out and strung him up over a light post. They pulled him out of the jail. And you'd think that would be the end of Big Nose, but it actually would start an adventure that would last another 70 years or so. So what we have in our collection is a couple different things. So I'm actually going to start with this. So back when famous people were killed or died, or even kind of, if you could afford it, you would have a death mask made of you. One of the more famous ones is Abraham Lincoln has a death mask of him, and they take it pretty much right after you're dead, hence the word death mask. And it gives you a really distinct impression of their face and its actual size as well. And so we have in our collection, this is the face of Big Nose George.
we can confirm that that is a good sized schnoz.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
so
that'd be nothing that some angioplasty couldn't fix.
yeah, I mean nowadays, I don't know, that'd be a lot of work to do. Probably years of fighting and getting punched in the nose a few times, um, but yeah. So this is Big Nose George's face right after he was lynched. Um, you'll notice though, of his full head here, even the hair, there are no ears.
Okay, yes.
So this is kind of grim. When he was lynched, the rope, you can see rope marks there on his neck. So when he was lynched, when they pulled him down, the hemp rope pulled his ears off, and so he was not treated well. So this is his face upon his death. His eyes are still open, as you can see. So that was kind of the first post death torturous act that the people of Rawlins kind of took out on George.
It was his because George Parrot. Is that his real name? Parrot?
They think so. I mean, in all the
Because
records,
a parrot, the beak, the nose.
yeah. They think his name may have been George Parrot, that he may have been born in France. He had a bunch of aliases as he traveled around being kind of an outlaw and stuff. So he didn't really.
Yeah, we didn't have the internet, so you could just
Yeah.
kind of say, you could be Lamont.
Yeah, exactly. But for the most part, everyone believes his name is George Parrot or George Perot, depending on what you think. So, he was autopsied by two local doctors, one being John Osborne, who was a surgeon for the Union Pacific, and then Dr. Thomas McGee, who was kind of the general physician of Rawlins at the time. And so, back when they did autopsies, they had a whole bunch of crazy ideas in the 1870s and 80s and 90s about the size of your brain contributing to criminal activity. It was a study called phrenology. Unfortunately, it has a connection to slavery and racism, and it's kind of a big thing. And they would test to see if your skull was thicker and everything. And it has kind of a weird racist past and not really based in anything scientific. Regardless, so what they did was they removed Big Nose George's skull, and what they did was they cut it open to study Big Nose's brain. And then what they did with the rest of him is they stuffed him in a whiskey barrel and buried him outside of town. But we have the actual, hold on, let me get a cleaner background here for you. This is the skull of Big Nose George Parrot. And you can even see the nose.
Yeah, that is.
Actually, the mandible fits there.
Have you ever took that home and just like drink a beer and just like kind of stared at it? Or are you kind of over it? Like there's like it's just.
I mean, it's kind of one of the more interesting things that people come here. So it's pretty unique.
Yeah, that is
yeah,
interesting. I don't want to use the word awesome, but it's very interesting.
But yeah, he had. I don't think he was that big of a guy. He was kind of tall and lean. Not really. His teeth are really small. You can tell. But yeah, so this is.
So he was missing his front teeth.
That was probably just over time. His
Yeah.
body being stuffed in the whiskey barrel, and probably got beat up on his way to the.
Yeah, probably punch him in the mouth or something like that. Yeah.
A few times. So after the autopsy, so they took the skull cap off and they gave it to Lillian Heath, who at the time was 16. She was Dr. McGee's, I guess, intern, you could say. She would later go on to become Wyoming's first licensed female doctor. And she would practice in Rawlins and throughout Wyoming and northern Colorado until about 1914, when she retired and came back to Rawlins and She kept her license up until her death. So they gave her the skull cap when she was 16, and we'll get back to that. So then they took Big Nose George's body, stuffed him in a whiskey barrel in an alley somewhere here in Rollins, and just kind of forgot about him. However, before that, we go back to Dr. Osborne, the UP surgeon, decided that he needed a souvenir made of Big Nose. And so right here are shoes that Dr. Osborne made. If you want, you could take them out if you want a better, cleaner shot so it's not so reflective.
If it's not too much of a bother.
Yeah.
I mean, but if they're delicate, I don't want to.
Okay. But either way, I'll get back on the story. So, Dr. Osborne took some skin from Big Nose George. It's the white part here on the shoes. Sent him down to Denver to make custom shoes to wear. So Osborne was then elected Wyoming's second governor in 1892 and wore those shoes to his inauguration. Made of human skin.
Made of human skin. Okay.
So they kind of, after Big Nose died, they kind of butchered him and.
That's a little macabre.
A little bit.
Kind of on. That's right up my alley.
So then, everyone kind of, as time passes on, blah, 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 we move on to the next era of the Big Nose George story. So, 1950, there are some excavations going on in Rollins, and the mysterious whiskey barrel is found, and they crack it open. Lo and behold, that skull rolls out of this barrel, filled with a bunch of bones and Big Nose George's shoes.
Oh, okay.
And
these
so,
are the shoes right here. Okay.
At that point, everyone kind of had an idea of who it was, because the Big Nose George story is just kind of one of those things that persists. Now, I wonder if it's that Big Nose guy. Let's go see. We know that Dr. Heath has that weird skull cap. And so they go to Dr. Heath's house, and lo and behold, she has the skull cap that she's held on to since 1881. And she's now, she was born in 1865, so she was about 85 years old at the time. And so she gave him the skull cap, and they took the cap, and they, as you can see in this picture, plopped it right on top of the skull, and they positively identified Big Nose George.
Where are his bones?
They're probably buried somewhere unmarked grave outside of town, or tossed or thrown away. The skull was donated to the museum, and the skull cap went to the Union Pacific Museum in Council Bluffs, Iowa. And then after that, it's one of those like legendary Western stories that kind of endures to this day. And it's one of probably the main reason that people come to our museum. But it just has so many elements that span almost 70 years of history, which is pretty cool.
Okay, guys, I'm going to stop the video right there. What do you guys think, huh? The first edition of Fascinating Graveyard Theater. I wanted to stop the video there because there is another very interesting piece of murderabilia, I think that's what they call it, that I wanted to save for a future video. I don't know if I'm going to use the video in a vlog, a separate vlog, or I'm just going to upload the video and just separate it. But big shout out to Tom down at the Carbon County Museum. There's some other cool stuff. Definitely go check it out if you're ever passing through Rollins on the I-80. With that being said, yeah, if you're ever in the area, definitely stop by, and a big shout out for them allowing me to film in their museum. Okay guys, I am out of here. I gotta step out of the trailer and get some air. I will see you guys, of course, on the next video. Peace out.